I was born in New York City, uptown in the Harlem Hospital building. My parents got divorced when I was 5, and in 1951, my mother married a Nigerian student of journalism. We 4 children grew up with him in Nigeria, where we learned to speak Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. The 4 of us eventually returned to the United States and lived in New York City. I first came to Sweden as a tourist in September 1968, and in 1970, I registered to study film at the Department of Film, Stockholm University. After getting my bachelor's and a master's degree, I did some freelance work for Swedish TV in Malmö for producer Herbert Söderström and journalist Gary Engman. They co-produced 2 films I made. For Personal Reasons, which won the Honorable Mention Prize at the Grenoble Festival for Short Films in 1973, and The Invisible People, a film about the plight of foreign students at Lund University, who was a producer for Nigerian TV in Lagos, told me that they would like to have TV people from Sweden to help develop programs for Nigerian TV. I wrote my Nigerian stepfather, asking him if he could help me find a position there. 2 months later, I received a letter from Professor Michael Crowder, a history professor at Ahmadu Bello University, who was heading a project called the Center for Nigerian Cultural Studies that needed a filmmaker. I replied that I was interested in the job, and he sent me plane tickets and a check to buy cameras and other equipment. Bought the equipment needed and had it shipped to Zaria, Nigeria. When I arrived at the Center for Nigerian Cultural Studies, the equipment I ordered had not yet been delivered. The director suggested that my assistant, Cornelius, and I go on a road trip to the villages in the area and take photographs of the local people. He arranged for a guide to accompany us, and off we went. In this shot, taken by my assistant named Cornelius, I am standing by some graves. Wherever you go in Nigeria, you saw coconut trees. This is a photograph of Grace, who was my guide. She was a gifted guide, fluent in 6 northern Nigerian languages and English. And all the photos in this project are possible because of her. So on the road, we always saw little boys watching us as we were traveling. And the single-lane highway was crowded all the time. We always met young ladies selling their products, their food products for the family, sort of fast food in Nigeria. Besides speaking Hausa, the dominant language group of the area, my translator Grace spoke 3 or 4 of the languages of the girls. They were obviously from other parts of the country. But Grace was a fantastic translator, as I said. She spoke 6 of the languages. The road again, always on the road. This is the reason why this is my road movie for Zaria. Zaria had 2 rivers. This is the Kubani River. The other one is known as the Galama River. And of course, if you have a river, you always have a fisherman. We asked this man what he was doing, and he said he's fishing for shrimp, and he showed us how he did it. He would put water in the bottom of the gourd, paddle around, collect the shrimp from the reeds, and place them in the water in the gourd to keep them fresh. That's how he did his fishing. And here we have fishermen's huts. This is how the fishermen, many of whom were migrant workers who came from other parts of Nigeria or from Cameroon or other parts of West Africa to fish for shrimp. This part of Nigeria is very rich in food produce. And here we have the place where they made the water jugs, where they were making jugs for containing water. We also came to a weaver's camp. These people made rugs. They were migrant workers. I bought 2 or 3 of them, and I still have them. And here we have a group of tradesmen, one of whom came from Niger, and the other one was from Chad. So they were migrant workers, but they worked for the local hotel, and they sold handicrafts. And in the local market, we saw an old man beating a drum. I think he was delivering the local news, according to what my translator said. And others were selling their food produce, onions, yams. This area was where some of the migrant workers built their shacks to live in. They came from other countries, and they made a living from buying and selling food produce. This is one of the hardest pictures of all that I took. Some of them were from Chad and Cameroon. They were all pushing this heavy load. It weighed 2 tons. The road again. This time, we have a dust storm ahead of us. And of course, one always comes across an accident or 2. This one, a man was killed in the accident. That was unfortunate. After recovering from that scene, we drove along and we ran into a Tuareg whom Grace had known from another tour guide job she had. And he quickly invited us to his house to meet his family. And we met him sitting with his wife and his children, and he was very pleasant. It was very pleasant. Here he sat with one of his daughters, and she was very shy. But she reminded me so much of one of my nieces living back in the States. I couldn't believe it. And his sister and his wife were sitting nearby, making one of the many delicious fufu dinners that they eat by pounding the yam or the cassava with a mortar and a pestle. And that's how they did their wonderful meals. And the little girl was shy, and I asked if I could take a picture. I asked him, and he spoke to her. He said, hey. She was very shy. She looked up, and her dad said, let the man take a picture. So she took this pretty picture for me. She posed for this picture for me. Cute little girl. Following that, he took me to a wonderful tea ceremony with his cousin. And after that, we went to visit his parents. This was a very special occasion. His mother told me that she'd do anything for her family. Her family is the most important part of her life. And we went back on the road. This time was lots of people headed towards the center of the town. People on bicycles, people on foot. And we saw a man carrying something on his head on a bicycle. I said, what is that? What is it used for? It looked like straw or hay. And we finally got to the point where we saw what he was carrying. Zaria was also surrounded by areas with lots of rocks. There were lots of rocks throughout northern Nigeria. These rocks are very prominent, and they even have names. So when you're in Africa, you sometimes have to dress like the natives. So I put on my Fulani hat and a nice short sleeve danshiki. And there I was. In one case, I stood by one of those wonderful rock formations. And back to town, towards town, where people were going to market with their large basins of produce. People were in the market stalls. And these three boys, standing next to one another. The ones with the caps were Hausa boys. And I was so thirsty till I bought a pineapple, a delicious pineapple to eat, which I shared with the crew. And there was plenty of water for sale. People selling water, the water jugs. The different size water had different prices. And everyone was headed towards the center of the market. And we met this great Fulani policeman, someone said. He was a Fulani. I bought the swords. And we saw the mothers waiting for their daughters to come back from selling their wares. The mothers looked a little worried, but they were confident that their children would be okay. Masu gida suna mika gaisuwa zuwa ga dukkan bakonmu na yanzu. Zaria gari ne mai albarka, an yi maraba da ku cikin so da ƙauna. Zaria barka da zuwa, maraba da ku. On my way to the parade grounds, we came upon these 5 young girls on their way to market in their colorful clothes. There were lots of youngsters selling their family vegetables and other produce. These boys and girls selling drinks. These baskets of food produce such as beans, millet, rice, sorghum, and other farm produce. And this woman hurrying on her way to market because she also wants to catch a glimpse of the Emir. Some farms looked empty because most of the farmers had already finished the work for the day and had left on their way to join the parade of the Emir. Shepherds on their way to give their prize rams to the Emir on his coronation. This shepherd smiled when I asked him for a photo. He was proud to be giving his prize rams to the Emir. We came across a cattleman delivering his prize bull to the Emir's court. We also met with boys selling small water jugs and grown men selling earthen containers for storage of water. These boys at the car window. Wherever we went, we attracted lots of attention from children who wanted to see the box camera and the shiny new car I drove. Local snake charmers were present to show the Emir that they were there to entertain him. And there was a local faith healer on hand to support those overcome with happiness to get a glimpse of the Emir. There were many village women bearing gifts of butter, milk, dairy products to the Emir. And at last we saw the parade of the Emir, even though he was very far away. He is the one under the red umbrella. On his majestic horse, he came closer and closer. This is the official photograph of the late Alhaji Shehu Idris, who was with us from the 20th February 1936 to the 20th of September 2020. He was the 18th Fulani Emir of Zaria from 1975 until his passing. The final shot in this film is of Cornelius and I, showing the Emir that we had indeed been at his parade with our cameras.